or it might be speaking in German. The very existence of the country, I argue, was saved by Mr. Churchill. That makes him worthy of a national funeral. That's what made him, whatever one's point of view about his domestic politics, deserving of the muffling of the chimes of Big Ben, deserving of the cranes being lowered on the Thames. No such consensus exists. You must know this, Mr. Speaker, about the deceased in this case. In vast tracts of this land, the North, Scotland, the Midlands, South Wales, the industrial areas of this country that were reduced to distressed areas in Mrs. Thatcher's term of office, have never forgiven her. But they're being asked to pay for this funeral. In fact, they're not being asked. They're being told that they must pay for this funeral. Now, the deceased was a great proponent of private enterprise and a great enemy of public expenditure and the role of the state, which she wished to shrink. You were once a devotee of these things yourself, Mr. Speaker, but I think age has brought wisdom in some respects to all of us. But it is an irony, is it not? I mean, as Ken Loach, the great film director, put it, surely we should have put this funeral out to tender to the private sector and invited companies to sponsor it. It's what she would have wanted, surely. It's what she would have wanted. At a time when our pensioners are shivering to death, literally, in a long winter that stretched now into the spring, at a time where we're virtually nationally bankrupt, is it right that the public should be told, not asked but told, that they must pay for a party political funeral? I believe not. And the public have not been consulted about any of this. And if my postbag has any relationship to anyone else's, it must be obvious that a lot of people are very unhappy about and of course they did have one chance, Mr. Speaker. I alluded to it a moment or two ago. They could download Ding Dong, the song from The Wizard of Oz, and they did in very large numbers. And the state broadcaster, which has led the phoning, actually censored the music that the public, with their money, in a decision, a private economic decision that they made. Mrs. Thatcher was a big fan of those. Private economic decision that they made to buy a single was then censored by the state broadcaster.
Order. I was just awaiting the conclusion of the honourable gentleman's sentence, but I struggle to see how what he has just said relates to the terms of the motion, the sittings of the House motion, to which I know it was his intention, and is now his intention, immediately to return. Mr. George Galloway.
Indeed, sir. Of course, the backdrop to this cannot be separated from it. There are many people watching this on the Parliament channel who know what the backdrop to this... Well, honourable gentlemen may laugh, but that's because they're not used to being watched on the Parliament channel. Let me assure them. Perhaps just as well. Perhaps they can't silence me, Mr. Speaker. Some members are not for turning, and I am one of them. And better men than those have tried to do so. I'm going to be cognizant, but when I'm here, people listen. Unlike some, well, I have a lot of tweets about the speeches that preceded this one, Mr. Speaker. They're not at all complimentary, let me assure you. My point is this, that the backdrop to this is clear, and it's been one thing after another. As Mr. Macmillan said, it's not one damn thing, it's one damn thing after another. It's the state mourning that was effectively declared by the state broadcaster. It's the decision that the government made, I understand. It's even speculated that your office was not wild about the idea to recall Parliament at a vast public expense, offering members of Parliament up to £3,700 to fly back from their holidays to attend what was in effect a state eulogy for a party political figure, then fly back at public expense to their holidays. And I hope that IPSA will be releasing the figures of who claimed and what they claimed. This was a grotesque decision, totally unnecessary. Monday was the day when Parliament returned. Monday was the day when people could have made their tributes and paid their tributes and made the points that they wished to make.